Welcome back, friends, or welcome if this is your first time to the channel. And if you're like me, you see our democracy crumbling before our eyes. And that can create feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and even anger. And I don't blame you. So if you'll come with me on this journey, I will show you how we can take our country back to the people where it belongs. I'm Michael P. for Your Democracy, and you are on the Purple Media Network, where our slogan is strengthening democracy beyond party lines. And this goes along with this concept of purple that you see there. And that comes about taking red and blue and putting those together. And in this context, taking Republicans and Democrats and bringing them towards the center, and taking folks like you and I that might have different ideas about how to approach problems or opportunities. And most of us kind of want the same goals, same outcomes, but we might have just different approaches to how to get there. And if we look at this idea of meeting in the middle or working across aisles, working towards that center, that purple center, we can get things done. And we know that's how the only way that things are going to get done. In the current era of hyper-partisan politics, we know things are not getting done. We know that there is more divisiveness than ever in politics and in our country, and more chaos than ever. So we believe this is the true way to change that and to bring about a better democracy for all of us. Now, a little disclaimer here. I'm talking about both parties here and finding current elected officials and new candidates that understand this idea and want to work together for the betterment of the people. So my disclaimer is this. The Republicans are the current ruling party, if you will, controlling all three branches of the government. And a big reason why we've gotten here today is that the majority of these elected officials have broken their oaths of office, are derelict in their duties, and have put the party and power of the party over the good of the people. And so this may seem slanted towards the Democratic side, the more liberal side. And that's really more the nature of the beast than total intention. Because we believe that's where the change is going to come about. And we know this pendulum concept of things go left, they go right, and it has to come back the other way very often. And the pendulum is so far right that it has brought about this crumbling of the democracy that I talk about, that has really stepped on our Constitution and the rights of the people. So bear with me when we approach, these ideas that that we're not trying to sway one way or the other, but necessarily at this time, it may appear that way. So on this channel, we're going to educate or re-educate folks on the Constitution and civics principles. Many of us learned some things back in junior high or senior high school, and we kind of remember some of these principles, but we've forgotten a lot. And so we're going to revisit those as we drive to our goal, which is the 2026 midterm elections. And that's why you see my timer up there. We've got 333 days to go. So seems like a long time, but it's going really fast. When I talked to you last, we had exactly a year to go. So this is going to be on us sooner than we know, and we're going to be having primaries and registration deadlines for candidates and so on. And we're going to be giving you all that kind of information. So we want to look at these principles because I want you to be confident when you talk to people, you hear things on the news, hear or see things on the news, or different people come to your town, such as ICE or Border Patrol or DHS, so that you know what your rights are, what your rights of your friends and neighbors are when we're encountered with these situations. And so what we're going to do on each episode, we're going to look back at a little recap of the previous episode and then bring up a current news story. And, we don't want this to be a news cycle channel where we're just bringing up news clips and stories of the day. That will happen, but in the context of why it matters to us. Okay. So our everyday lives and just going about what we need to do. So it'll be something like if ICE shows up to your door. I live in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and we just had the ICE in our neighborhood, and they set up camp in somebody's private house outside their house. A dozen of them, and that kind of thing is just not allowed. And the homeowner was telling them to get off her property unless they had a warrant, and they refused to do so. And so that's a kind of thing clearly written into our Constitution that you can't invade somebody's personal space, personal property, without a warrant. And the president can't let the military go into private citizens' property or homes. And those are just very, very strict and hard-written rules of the Constitution. So it's those kind of things of, what to know, when to know it. And so we're going to be looking at that and telling you what is the law or the constitutional law that is prevailing at that point. And then we'll look at the upcoming elections and the profiles and what's going on in the Democratic and Republican Party in both those cases. And hopefully we will infuse a little humor so it doesn't get too heavy. These are heavy concepts because we're in such a precarious place with how the balance, of our country can lean right now. So it is important, but we'll try to bring a little bit of levity to it as well. So last time we talked about the three branches of government. So we have three distinct branches of government, or we're supposed to. That is the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches. And a big reason why that this channel is existing, as well as the many other political channels you can check into these days, is because those concepts, those lines have just been broken down and by the Trump administration, and the executive branch has purposely assumed vast power, and the other two branches have really let them. And even though our Supreme Court justices are appointed by the president, they generally still operate uh, within the law, the Constitution, and kind of in what they've been taught through law school and through their many years of working through the judicial system. And this is where that idea, like I said, of yes, you can have a conservative slant on it, but they have thrown out many of the precedents that liberal and conservative courts have upheld through decades and decades. And so they have just bowed to the Trump administration on almost every case that they brought before them. So this is a huge concept that we need to restore like right now. And again, that's not going to happen until that balance of power gets checked. And that'll happen at the 2026 midterm elections. You know, it's fascinating and not in a good way that stories, news stories, and things get brought up that all of a sudden really get magnified, become very much in the spotlight. And this is an example of this is 6 elected officials and then our director of the FBI. They're going after these 6 officials because they had the audacity to openly put out video to people in the military to tell them that they do not have to follow illegal orders, and the president has accused them of sedition, basically of revolting against the government and trying to overthrow the government, and even went so far as to call for not their death by name, but death for anybody accused of sedition. So, first off, this really violates the First Amendment of free speech, as well as they are 100% correct in calling out that law, highlighting that law, that principle. In the last episode, we talked about this concept, and that was in my disclaimer as well. So a lot of people are confused, and this is a point where now you will know for yourself, because people get confused and they ask me, well, the president can do what he wants, right? Well, no. So every high official, from the president to senators to members of the House of Representatives to Supreme Court justices to military personnel, all take the exact oath of office. And that is the first, and for many, the only principle, is to uphold the laws of the Constitution. The only exception being military personnel. Their secondary oath is to follow lawful orders of the president and or commander in chief and or their superiors. That is lawful orders. And back to those 6 senators and Congress people, they just reminded the military that they do not have to follow illegal orders. And now they're being persecuted, and President Trump wants them brought up on charges of sedition or trying to overthrow the government. So now when someone says that to you, you can say, no. The military, their first oath of office is to the Constitution, just like everybody else, just like the president and every member of Congress and the Supreme Court. So I'm going to play a little video for you next. And this is one of the 6 people, Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, responding back to these charges. And I want to point out to you that 4 of the 6 people that they're accusing have credible and honorable military service to the country. So these are not people that are against our armed forces or or the Constitution. So Senator Mark Kelly here, he flew 39 combat missions, 25 years in the Navy, served, became an astronaut and did 4 space shuttle missions, and did many, many dangerous operations. So they're going after one of the most respected, decorated people in our military history. So let's take a look at this.
The president has gone too far. Everybody needs to wake up. The occupant of the Oval Office is ignorant to the Constitution and has no regard for the rule of law. Trying to silence me, in proposing to court-martial me, in threatening to kill me for fighting back when our democracy demands that we must fight back. President Trump has crossed a line. And this time, it's not going to work. I will not be intimidated by this president. I am not going to be silenced by this president or the people around him, because I've given too much in service to this country to back down to this guy. In 1991, when Donald Trump was driving the Taj Mahal casino into bankruptcy, I was getting shot at over Iraq and Kuwait. In 2001, after Donald Trump said that the collapse of the Twin Towers meant he now owned the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan, I was carrying flags honoring 9/11 victims into space on a rocket ship. In 2003, when Donald Trump was writing birthday greetings to the monster Jeffrey Epstein, I was the first on the scene to recover the bodies of my fellow astronauts who died when Space Shuttle Columbia exploded during re-entry. In 2011, when Trump was hosting a reality show and peddling conspiracy theories against President Barack Obama, I was sitting next to my wife's hospital bed as she recovered from a gunshot wound to the head.
So why does this matter? Well, there's things that matter to us really on a local level, like I talked about devoiding people of their due process and constitutional rights. And then in this context, going after people for exercising their freedom of speech, and these, again, being respected people. And why this matters on a macro level, you'll see in the next clip.